Well, it's official. President Trump's one big, beautiful bill has passed Congress and has been signed into law. Today, let's talk about how it affects you if you're in or near retirement. Hi, I'm Dave Lopez.
And I'm Chase Lopez, and we're financial advisors with ILG Financial. And today is another episode of Retire Your Way with ILG Financial, where we talk all things retiring. All right, Dave, before we jump in, just want to remind everyone, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell as well to make sure you get notifications for any future videos that we have. Now, today, we're going to talk about the one big, beautiful bill that was recently passed. This bill is very expansive. I think I read somewhere it's 900 pages. We are going to focus today on the things that apply to you all, specifically folks in or near retirement. So we're not going to hit all of the one big, beautiful bill today, but we're going to hit those key points, I would say.
Yeah. So remember, everything we talk about today is the 10,000-foot view. You'll hear this again at the end of the video, but get with your tax professional and or your financial professional, see how these affect you. But with your permission, let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
The first one I want to talk about is there was a lot of talk about this bill and how it was going to change the tax brackets.
Mm-hmm.
Those brackets were set to expire, what's called a sunset clause, December 31st of this year, and revert back to the previous higher taxes prior to 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this bill keeps them where they are, but are really at historic lows, and makes them permanent. And you're going to hear this permanent a couple times today. I want to remind you, permanent does not mean permanent.
Permanent until it's changed.
It's changed. But it just means now that Congress will have to vote and physically pass a new bill to change it, which is a big deal. That's harder to do than a sunset clause. So currently, the tax rates for 2025 that will continue are 0%, 10, then the next one's 12, 22, then 24, then 32, 35, and then the top bracket is 37. Those are now made permanent, so they will continue past December 31st. That's a good thing if you're in or near retirement, or if you're earning money. I don't know if it's better for the country with the debt, but for you as a retiree or in or near retirement, it's a good thing because it's going to keep your taxes lower.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, we're talking about income taxes with that one, right? There are other taxes out there that we're not going to get into today, but that is specifically referring to those income tax brackets.
Yeah, what's next?
So another big piece of this one big, beautiful bill that was passed was the deductions, right? Your standard deductions that we've enjoyed over the past few years, those are also becoming permanent, right? Or permanent until they're changed. So
that's true.
So for a single person, standard deduction is going to be $15,700 if you're filing single. If you're filing head of household, it's going to be $23,625. And then for joint filers, it's $31,500. So all that means when we say standard deduction is essentially if you're using that standard deduction to do your taxes for a joint filer, for example, the first $31,500 is just deducted right off the top. So you don't pay any taxes on that initial amount there.
And by standard, they mean you don't have to prove you have those write-offs.
Correct.
Everyone gets that. You only have to list your deductions if you think they're going to be more than that $31,500.
Exactly.
That would be what you would call itemized, right? Itemized deductions. So let's jump in. Since we're on deductions, this is the biggie that everyone's been hearing about. President Trump said that he was going to get rid of any taxes on Social Security, which was very attractive if you're in or near retirement.
Sure.
He wasn't able to pull that off. He wanted to, but you've got to get it through Congress and the House of Representatives. And what the compromise was, an extra deduction for seniors, which will reduce your taxes as a whole. Now, you could discuss that's, in a way, reducing taxes on your Social Security because you get Social Security.
Right.
It helps a little, and every little bit helps.
Sure.
Here's what that is. It's only for those 65 and older. In addition to the standard deduction that Chase just told you, you also already get a senior deduction. So that senior deduction for a single person is an extra $2,000. For a married couple, it's an extra, what is it, Chase? $3,200.
Yep.
So using Chase's example, if you're a joint filer, if you're a married couple, your standard deduction now is permanent until changed
Yes.
at 31,500.
Mhm.
And if you're over 65, both of you, you get an extra 3,200.
Right.
That's already the current tax code,
Mhm.
right? So that's been continued and is in permanent
Until changed.
right? Now there's an additional deduction if you're over 65 added on to that of $12,000 for married couple, assuming you're both over 65, $6,000 for an individual. And now that is to help with the taxes on Social Security. It's a deduction.
Mhm.
That does get phased out after you make more money.
Yes.
Now that's a big deal for those in or near retirements because the phase out is about, is it 150
Yep. Mhm.
for a married couple and 75? That's not a lot of income,
Right.
right? So that's about, I think you and I talked about the 22% bracket.
Yes.
In the middle of the 22% bracket, you're starting to phase out
Mhm.
that and you'll start to lose it.
Yeah.
Now, we'll talk about when Roth conversions a little later and why that would affect it. But just be aware that that might be an opportunity for you to get a little extra savings.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that point, Dave, this senior, they call it the bonus deduction. I think was kind of the marketing term, I guess you could say for it, right? And with that senior bonus deduction, that is in place temporarily. So unlike some of the other things we talked about that are being made permanent, right? This senior bonus deduction has a sunset clause, right? And I believe it's 2028. Right.
I think 29.
2029. Yeah. So last year you could use it as 2028. Right. And so just keep that in mind as you do kind of future tax planning, that senior bonus deduction, may not be around forever.
Yep.
So again, speaking of deductions, we can kind of move to the next one there.
Yep.
This was a very contentious one. If anyone was watching the news, it was called the SALT deduction, or the cap on the SALT deduction. Now, SALT, that just stands for your state and local taxes. So previously, prior to the One Big Beautiful Bill being passed, the cap on that was $10,000. So you could deduct $10,000 of your state and local taxes against your federal taxes, right? Now, with the One Big Beautiful Bill, that has been raised to $40,000. So now you can deduct $40,000 of your state and local taxes against your federal taxes, right? So it's a good thing for retirees that pay a lot in those state and local taxes, and may lead to you itemizing your deductions as opposed to using those standard deductions.
Yeah, that's the big one, right? For the last 8 years,
Sure.
A lot of retirees have switched to standard deduction because this was one of their biggest deductions and was wiped out.
Right.
So get with your tax professional and your financial advisor to see, hey, maybe I should start itemizing now. Because just think of this, for folks in upper middle class homes, your property tax is likely over $5,000 alone.
Right.
Not even counting Virginia state tax. So now you're going to be able to really deduct almost, probably for many of you, a great deal, if not all, of your Virginia state income tax and your property tax.
Right.
That'll take you well over the $30,000 standard deduction. So you want to be aware of that and make sure your accountant, if you're doing your own taxes, get with your financial professional just for another set of eyes on it. They're not an accountant, but it's better than nobody looking at it.
Another thing, so moving on to the next one, with the One Big Beautiful Bill, some people thought that potentially required minimum distributions, that was going to change, right? So some people thought, they were going to...
Yeah, the talk was they were going to drop it back down to start earlier.
Right. So that did not happen, right? So RMDs are staying the exact same age, 73 for most folks, right? For their required minimum distribution. So no change there on your RMDs.
Unless if you're born in 1960 and later, it's 75.
Right.
That also is unchanged.
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And then Roths, that came up too. Are they going to Roth conversions? Are they going to kind of cut back your ability to do Roth conversions? Great news is no change. So you can convert as much as you want, as often as you want. No changes there. So you want to factor that in as well when you're planning on Roth conversions. I mentioned earlier what to think about is if you are old enough that you are somehow getting for this next 4 years that bonus deduction of $12,000. Remember that phased out over at about $150,000. So be aware and remind your tax professional, your financial person helping you with your Roth conversions. Your Roth conversions may disqualify you for that bonus. And frankly, it may be worth it. That's the decision. There's a lot of moving pieces here. And that's why we don't recommend you do this alone. You want to weigh the benefit of paying the taxes now if you think they're going up, even if you lose a little bit of that bonus deduction.
Yep.
Right? With taking the deduction, but maybe less money can be converted.
Right.
And they might be burned later if taxes go up.
Yeah.
So just something to consider, but that's why you want to have somebody looking at it with you.
Absolutely. And we've had videos on Roth conversions before, if that's something that you're not really familiar with. So I would recommend you go check out that video on Roth conversions and how it could potentially help you out moving forward. So let's move forward with that one big, beautiful bill. That's just fun to say. So the estate tax or the gift tax, some people use that term interchangeably, but that estate tax is going up. So the estate tax exemption for folks is going to go up to $15 million each. So if you're a couple, that's $30 million. And essentially what they're saying there is the first $30 million that you pass on to your heirs, whoever you pass it on to, are exempt from estate taxes. So that's higher than it was before. So as you're building out your estate plan, you want to certainly take that into consideration.
Yeah, that's foreign to a lot of people. They're not sure what we're talking about. And that's because you probably haven't had, it's not income tax. You've never had this tax. This tax wouldn't hit you until you passed. You wouldn't even know about it unless you had a parent or a family member who passed and you were working on their estate.
Right.
So what they're in effect saying is there is an extra tax on your estate, but for anybody who's worth under, married couple, 30 million, it doesn't affect you.
Correct.
So you wouldn't know about it.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a wonderful, raising it's a wonderful thing, especially for this huge amount of Americans that are in self-employed and have accumulated. They're not hyper wealthy, but they've accumulated some money and they don't want to have to lose 30, 40, 50% of it to estate tax. So that's a good thing.
I like that point, Dave, because a lot of times for self-employed folks, a lot of their quote unquote net worth is tied into the business that they've built. And ultimately
farmers too.
Yeah, farmers too, right? So ultimately those folks want to pass that down to the next generation. And this estate tax going up is going to help with that.
Yep. Real quick, let me go to the next one.
Yes.
I'm going to go through this. This one is not going to affect most of the folks we meet with as much,
correct.
But they are tightening the strings and the rules on Medicaid. Now, if you remember, Medicaid is not Medicare. Medicare is what the seniors get.
Right.
Medicaid is more like welfare. It's for folks whose income is so low or no income or disabled that they would qualify for Medicaid. That's insurance paid really by the state. And they're tightening the rules on that. So more requirements for working to qualify for Medicaid if you're able to work and things. That's not going to affect the retirees as much. Where it might, and you want to make sure you're checking with your advisor, if your plan for long-term care is, hey, if I run out of money, Medicaid will pay for it, and it in fact will. But you just want to check with your financial advisor how these new changes may affect your ability to take advantage of long-term care through Medicaid. Again, for all intents and purposes, you have to run out of money.
Right.
And that's a separate video as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's wrap it up.
Yep. So one big, beautiful bill. There are some changes for retirees, right? I would say the biggest one is that senior bonus deduction, right?
I would say the biggest one is the SALT tax.
Yeah, there you go.
We're disagreeing here.
There you go. In any event, right, there are some good things out there in this bill for retirees. Make sure you get with your financial professional to see how this is going to not only affect you today, but also any planning moving forward. So we talked about estate tax, right? You certainly want to take that into account when you build out your estate plan, but all future planning needs to be adjusted a little based on this new bill. Great episode. We'll catch you next time at Retire Your Way with ILG Financial.
Hi, Dave Lopez here. I want to thank you for watching our ILG Financial video series, Retire Your Way with ILG Financial. Just wanted to remind you, in addition to our YouTube video series, we also offer podcasts, 30-minute podcasts on different topics. You can check them out through our YouTube channel. You can also look at them through our website or any of the below listed platforms. Talk to you soon.